Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. Today we are discussing and calling out what the Trump administration is doing to children who are here in California and throughout the country and in our custody and should be safe here. My name is Maggy Krell. I'm an assembly member representing Sacramento. I'm here with Shayna Aber, the CEO of the Acacia Center. And we want to talk about what this administration is doing. We want to talk about what they're doing to children. I started my career and spent many, many years as a human trafficking prosecutor. I prosecuted some of the worst traffickers in the country, and I worked closely with the Department of Homeland Security to do so. This Department of Homeland Security under this administration has lost its way. They've completely lost sight of the mission, and they're putting children at risk and children in grave danger. A couple hours from now, on the other side of the country, in a courtroom, lawyers will be asking the court to hold an injunction that would stop this administration from deporting children to Guatemala. And let me back up here and tell you what happened about a week and a half ago over a holiday weekend, over Labor Day weekend. The Trump administration's Department of Homeland Security rounded up and woke up in the middle of the night children to try and deport them back to Guatemala, back into harm's way. And if it hadn't been for our colleagues, for these lawyers behind me and the lawyers they're working with on the other side of the country, the administration might have gotten it done. These kids are extremely vulnerable. Many of them have already been trafficked. They are deserving of trafficking protections. The law guarantees it. Every human rights organization across the globe knows it. And what this administration did or tried to do is unexcusable, and we need to call it out. These children, at a minimum, deserve a process. They deserve an attorney. They definitely don't deserve being woken up in the middle of the night and put on planes and deported. What this administration is doing is unconscionable. And what we're doing here is fighting back and calling it out. For my part, in Sacramento, we are working on building a larger legal team of pro bono lawyers who will be ready to launch a rapid response when we need it, and we certainly do. So with me today, I want to introduce City Council member Eric Guerra, who has been on the ground helping with this network in Sacramento for a long time. I really appreciate his work, and I'm proud to introduce him here today.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember. Let's give Assemblymember Krell a round of applause here, and also a gratitude for bringing to highlight something so tragic. The fact that the Trump administration is doing something completely contrary to American values. Many people, and why we fight for our country, is so that our kids have futures, so that children have a future. And the fact that they're going after the weakest among us should say something. The fact that they're going after children. Think about it. I'm a father of a 7 and a 4-year-old. Can you imagine if you're a parent where you're a child? Think about that image of that child being picked up, incarcerated, detained, and then with the threat of being transported to a separate country, maybe a country that they don't even know or remember or acknowledge. But yet, those American kids, again, children, are the ones that are being victimized here. And here in the city of Sacramento, we fight for our children. Here in the city of Sacramento, we're going to continue to support this effort, not only for our city, but to send a message nationally. We at the city have also supported assistance for legal services, and that's what we're doing. We're using the Constitution of the United States, the 14th Amendment and the 4th Amendment, that says that all people, including children, deserve the right of due process. They're not even getting due process. The Trump administration is doing something that is so sneaky. It's so, it's almost the boogeyman, frankly, to go after and pick up kids and take them in the middle of the night, and try to put them on a plane to a different country. This is outrageous. It should be, the public should be outraged about this, and more importantly, we should all be united on this front. I want to thank the Assembly member for bringing this coalition of more attorneys. And if you are an attorney out there and you can support this effort to help kids, to make sure that kids have a voice, we've always fought for kids having a voice in healthcare, in safe communities, in our schools, because that's our job as adults. Our job as adults is to make sure that we have a pathway for all kids in the future, whether it's ours or someone else's. Thank you very much, Assemblymember Krell, and all of the service providers. Let's give them a big round of applause for the work that they're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Krell and Councilmember Guerra. I am joined here today with other colleagues from California legal services providers, including California Immigrant Policy Center, Community Justice Alliance, and Opening Doors. And I'm so grateful to be in community with all of you today. My name is Shayna Aber, and I am the Executive Director at the Acacia Center for Justice, a national immigration nonprofit that partners with legal services providers who have dedicated their careers to protecting the legal rights of children, adults, and families facing immigration court. The children who were targeted on Labor Day weekend are a wide swath of Guatemalan kids in U.S. custody. They range in ages from elementary school kids, like my own babies, to 17. Many came from indigenous communities in Guatemala who have faced violence, displacement, dispossession, and disappearances. And state forces in Guatemala have actually collaborated, in some cases, colluded in robbing them of their communal lands so that multinational conglomerates can take over. Some have fled threats of violence and social cleansing or sexual and gender-based violence. Some have survived severe forms of trafficking and abuse and have trafficking visas pending. It didn't matter what kind of relief these kids had pending or the court cases that they had ongoing. They were targeted in Texas and Arizona on Labor Day weekend in the dead of night. When a child arrives unaccompanied in the United States, it is incumbent upon independent legal services providers to understand the circumstances that led them to flee their country of origin. A child who has left their country of origin all alone has often been failed on many levels by the adults and national authorities in their lives. It is up to us to understand a child's interests and case history and whether there are grounds for a child to seek relief from deportation. The voluntary departure process for children must take place before an immigration judge. Under our regulations, children in hearings requesting voluntary departure must have legal counsel or a next friend available that is not an employee or agent of the facility in which they are being held. A judge is obliged to assess if children are in fact asking for voluntary departure of their own free will and relinquishing any legal claims that they might have access to, or whether they are being coerced. What we saw on Labor Day weekend was not just coercion, it was incredibly traumatic for the children involved. Children were reported to have been vomiting on the side of the road out of fear, pleading with the guards that were taking them away to understand that they were fearful of return. As they were loaded onto planes, the private contractor employed by ICE who was loading them on was told by attorneys that there was a temporary restraining order in place. They were told by these private contractors, I haven't heard anything about that. I'm not waking ICE up in the middle of the night. I don't follow a court order. I follow the orders I was given. Protecting the rights and dignity of children should not be a radical idea. Keeping kids safe has been a priority of our national government on a bipartisan basis for decades, and it has been a priority of California. We must follow the child protection protocols in order to ensure that kids are not returned to harm, and that is simply what the DC litigators are asking for today when they appear in the federal court building. I really want to thank the community of legal service providers all around the country who responded, who dropped everything, who left their families, who left their kids in the hands of loved ones so that they could drive out to those shelters and stand in the door and demand that due process be followed. Without them, children would have been deported in the dead of night with no due process whatsoever and no protection. I don't know what to call what we witnessed on Labor Day weekend. It was chilling. It was harmful, it was callous, and it was an illegal act that has left children and the community of lawyers who work to provide high-quality, trauma-informed services shaken. This is not how we treat children. It shouldn't be, and it can't be. The trauma of the event, the news of the targeting of unaccompanied children has sent ripples of trauma and heightened anxiety through vulnerable kids sitting in ORR custody in our state, and is cascading through communities concerned about children's rights and the rule of law. We are here today to stand for justice for youth in California communities, including in ORR shelters, and we are so grateful for the leadership of Councilmember Guerra and of Assemblymember Krell in lifting up this issue and fighting for children's rights. And I'm going to hand it over now to Jessica Martinez.
Good morning. I am here today as an immigration attorney who represents unaccompanied children throughout the Central Valley to share how this administration has lied about immigration enforcement being about public safety, and specifically how they have targeted and further traumatized unaccompanied immigrant children in our communities. About a month ago, our team attended a scheduled ISAP check-in with one of our designated unaccompanied children clients with a disability. Our attorneys were prevented from going inside the ISAP office with our client and were told that it was literally just a quick check-in. Instead, our client was violently tackled by 8 ICE agents who were waiting for him inside. They stomped on his back and disappeared him from the building through a secret exit without telling us where they were taking him. While in detention, our client told us he is feeling sick and with a fever and has been denied any medical attention. The trauma he endured from the violent arrest and ongoing detention has only been further exacerbated by his disability, with absolutely no care shown from this administration for his safety or well-being. In a separate instance, we responded to what we knew would be the surprise arrest of one of our client's mothers, the sole provider to a 5-year-old with no criminal history and already on the intense surveillance of an ankle monitor. She presented no public safety threat whatsoever and only came to apply for protection. After consulting with a child therapist, we learned about the extreme harm this would cause our 5-year-old client, who would be at home waiting for a mother that would never return. The therapist encouraged us to talk to the child and let them know that mommy is going on a trip. The child was so excited, asking if they could come too. Through tears, mom responded that no, only she could go. We planned for an emergency caretaker, meals, and sadly the kidnapping of a mother who had only been told to attend an appointment. Thankfully, that day that mom was supposed to report, protesters had surrounded the building, where previously that day others had been dragged off by masked individuals presumably acting on behalf of our government. She did not make it in the building on time. She was free another day, sobbing the entire car ride home. What unfolded in these incidents mirrors the recent attempted disappearance of the unaccompanied Guatemalan children in the shelters. This administration is once again illegally attempting to disappear people, this time children in government custody, alone and without guardians to protect them, and hoping to get away with it under the cover of darkness before a court intervenes. We reject that these kidnappings are about our safety. On the contrary, these tactics are a public health and a public safety issue. They only serve to further traumatize these vulnerable children, many of them having experienced fear of returning to their home country because of violence, abuse, neglect, or human trafficking. No child who arrives to the United States alone, seeking safety and reunification with family, should ever have to fear that the federal government will stand in the way of that reunification. Every child deserves to feel safe, and should have the opportunity and the right to be heard in court. Through its actions, this administration has deliberately undermined due process and the critical protections for these children under the law. This is a dangerous slide into authoritarianism where we no longer have notice, due process, or transparency, and it must end today. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Anayeli Martin, Legislative Assistant with the California Immigrant Policy Center. Thank you all for being here today to protect unaccompanied children from mass deportations. Since June, in just Southern California, over 5,200 people have been arrested by ICE. Multiply this by the many regions of our state, and the impact on our communities is devastating. The raids have taken place on our streets, at work sites, and at sensitive locations including schools, hospitals, and places of worship, creating fear in our communities and terrorizing children and families across the state. Families are being torn apart as Californians are being kidnapped from our streets. These agents are carrying military-style weapons in plain clothes and unmarked vehicles. They are racial profiling people of color, particularly Latino Californians. They are intimidating and using violence against people of color on our streets, including citizens, permanent residents, and veterans. No judicial warrant, no questions, and no regard for constitutional rights or public safety. Every child deserves safety, care, and protection, regardless of immigration status. California is home to the second largest population of unaccompanied immigrant minors seeking safety and refuge in our state and country. Many of these children migrating without a parent or guardian are survivors of violence, trafficking, or persecution. Unaccompanied children are being targeted by the Trump administration's mass deportation agenda. As mentioned previously, in the dead of night during the Labor Day weekend, the Trump administration tried to deport 600 minors to a country where their lives are in immediate danger, denying them due process. We urge California leaders to do everything they can to defend children from mass deportations. Sadly, the mass immigration raids and deportations are far from over. Earlier this week, the U.S. Supreme Court lifted a lower district court order that had temporarily paused unconstitutional raids. This unconscionable decision is allowing the federal government to resume indiscriminate immigration raids and arrests, and gives federal agents the green light to use racial profiling and to stop, search, and detain Californians based on race, language, or occupation. This is affecting all Californians, not just immigrants, but also U.S. citizens, veterans, and children. California must lead and defend due process to protect our children and immigrant communities. We appreciate the legislature's investment of state funds to expand deportation defense, strengthen our rapid response infrastructure, and support our youth and families from the constant attacks of the federal administration. We must continue funding and expanding these programs to protect our children and families in California from mass deportation by providing them access to justice, safety, and due process. Thank you to Assemblywoman Krell and our partners at Acacia for Justice for holding this press conference and for your commitment to supporting our immigrant communities. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Jessie Mabry. I'm the CEO of Opening Doors. We're a Sacramento-based organization that supports immigrants, refugees, and survivors of human trafficking on their path to stability, self-sufficiency, and belonging. In addition to being the CEO of Opening Doors, a mom, a member of this community, I'm the granddaughter of a woman who almost 100 years ago came to this country as an unaccompanied 17-year-old girl. My grandmother would go on to learn English, graduate high school, work as an in-home care provider, get married, start a business with her husband, and raise 4 children. I'm here today because of her sacrifice and because the America that welcomed her knew that our entire community was lifted from the results of her grit and determination and her contributions to this country. We are deeply concerned by the efforts to unlawfully remove unaccompanied immigrant children under the guise of repatriation. Last year, California was home to over 10,000 unaccompanied children, and we will not stand by while they are woken in the middle of the night and have attempts to put them on flights before courts can intervene to countries where they will surely be returned to harm. Opening Doors is proud to serve unaccompanied children through Acacia's Children's Holistic Immigration Project and our other immigration legal services program. We're proud to stand with our immigrant neighbors as this administration rolls out increasingly antagonistic policies. And we know that we cannot do this alone. We must come together to protect all of our immigrant neighbors, and this is precisely why we started the RISE Hub, which empowers our Sacramento region's immigrant communities by providing connections to vital support and resources. The Sacramento RISE Hub is a place for community members to find information, whether they are seeking support for themselves or whether they are seeking to walk side by side with their immigrant neighbors. This is a moment that calls on all of us to act. Attorneys can step in to volunteer their time, representing cases pro bono, participating in our region's rapid response network, or volunteering at the Attorney of the Day program at the Sacramento Immigration Court. To learn more about volunteering, visit sacrisehub.org/volunteer. We will continue to work to protect these children and their families, ensuring that they receive the care, protection, and due process that they deserve. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions? All right, well, I will leave you with this. Nelson Mandela teaches us that the true revelation of a society is the way in which it treats its children. This administration is failing.